Hi! Welcome to day 23 of the Giddy Knits Vlogmas. I'm Tom, and this is Helen.
Hello! Welcome to our Q&A video. Normally, we would sit down in an evening and record this with a glass of wine or some other kind of alcoholic beverage. However, we don't have any evenings free now. Tonight we're playing D&D, tomorrow my parents arrive, and then it's Christmas Eve. So we've got cups of tea instead and a slightly more sedate Q&A video, maybe.
Although I would point out that I have coffee, not tea.
Sorry, I got it wrong.
Be precise about these things.
So we have lots of questions that you guys have sent in and asked. Some of them are more normal questions, some of them are ridiculous questions, some of them are going to really make us think. And this video will be a bit longer than the normal Vlogmas videos because it always is, because we get chatting and I can't stop talking. So yeah, we will just, whoa, careful cat. We have got both kittens wandering around the lounge trying to cause chaos with cups of tea and tripods and yeah, kitten things. So in no particular order, I guess, other than the order that I've written them down in the book.
Yep.
Shall we answer some questions?
I think we should. That's why we're here. What everyone is tuned in for. Don't want to be disappointing.
Right. Question number 1. Mince pies, Christmas pudding, or Christmas cake?
Now, you see, this is not my favourite question because I'm not a huge fan of any of those things.
You like mince pies?
I like mince pies, but I don't love mince pies. I like some types of Christmas cake, but I find them too dark and too rich and too heavy. So a lighter Christmas cake is not so bad. So I'd have to pick Christmas pudding, but only because I've discovered a recipe, as seen on previous editions of this Vlogmas. A nice recipe that I really like, that's not too dark and is quite light and fruity and interesting. Plus you can cover it in brandy butter and that makes everything better. So that would be my answer, pudding.
Whereas for me, I can't choose between the 3 of those things. They're like my favourite things all year. I love mince pies, I love Christmas pudding, and maybe Christmas cake is lower down the list of those 3 things. I really like it, but not as much as Christmas pudding. I think I'd have to go Christmas pudding. Christmas pudding with a good portion of brandy butter.
Yeah. Warm, melty.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're already full of turkey.
We usually have to have like a 2-hour break after Christmas dinner before we actually have the Christmas pudding because we're all too full.
Our Christmas pudding tends to be our evening meal on Christmas Day. So we have a late lunch, and then everyone's too full, and then 3 or 4 hours later we have Christmas pudding as the evening meal.
Right, the next question.
Yes, excited.
Our favourite Christmas tree topper.
A Christmas tree topper.
Now, there's something we've never really. I mean, we have a star currently on the top of our Christmas tree, and we've nearly always had a star on the top of our Christmas tree.
Yeah.
But mostly because we've never really found anything else. The old star we had was broken.
I think we did have a Peppa Pig angel.
I was just about to say, one year when Arthur was about 2. He must have been 2 or 3, something like that. Do you know what? I will try and see if I can find a photograph because I have a photo of it. We had a Peppa Pig, a soft toy of Peppa Pig dressed as a Christmas fairy.
Yeah.
And he insisted that had to go at the top of the Christmas tree one year.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we've never really had a proper Christmas topper. This one that's up there now was just the cheap one that came in with the baubles. But our old one, which was also a cheap plastic one, was broken. So this one's better.
Various star ornaments, I think, that we've tried to fix to the top in different years.
I like a star, I think I like a star for a Christmas tree.
That's our answer then, isn't it?
Yeah,
Star,
I guess so.
And then second place, Peppa Pig dressed as a fairy.
Right. The best Christmas present you remember getting as a kid?
Okay, right, so I know this one.
He has this one, yeah.
So, when I was, I don't know, 2, 3, 4. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I remember coming down one Christmas morning and finding loads of presents kind of spread out around the Christmas tree, which is not anything we did. So I don't know if this is something I've made up, but I definitely remember getting one of those plastic Tomy racing cars where the spoiler comes out the back, and then you can unscrew it and take it apart. And you can take it apart, and there's like got wheels, you can take the wheels off, and you can put it back together again, you can put it back together again without wheels, so it's like an aqua car. And that was my favourite. I remember getting that and loving it.
We had one of those for the kids.
We did have one for the kids.
We found one second hand in a charity shop.
We did.
And we had it when the kids were younger.
Because I bought it for nostalgic reasons.
Do you know what? I really struggled with this one because I can't remember a specific thing. There's one specific toy that I remember being very excited about, but I can't remember whether it was a Christmas present or a birthday present. So yeah, I struggled with this one. But the one toy that I specifically remember getting, and again, can't remember if it was birthday or Christmas. Hopefully it was Christmas. But it was a doll, but it's quite weird when I look back on it. It was a doll, but it had a projector in its head. So it was like a princess doll, and it had a crown on its head. But like inside the crown on its head was actually a projector. And you could press a button and it showed like little lights and stuff on the ceiling. Not nearly to the standard of nowadays projectors. But it also played music, and it had like little jewels all over it that kind of lit up as well. And I remember being very excited by that. That was a good present, yeah.
Sounds exciting.
Right, what's next? Our favourite books of 2023.
Well, this may be a struggle for both of us.
Yeah, what was my favourite book of 2023? I've read quite a lot of books that I really enjoyed, and obviously you already know my top 10 because I did my top 10 earlier in Vlogmas. But which of those would be my actual favourite? I think I'm going to say Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Because although it was really, really long and it took a while to get through, I did really enjoy it. And it was a really, really good read.
I would have to go, I'm going to limit it to fiction, and I will have to go with The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, which was amazing.
Is it kind of fantasy?
Fantasy.
She writes a lot of fantasy, doesn't she?
She does, fantasy, sci-fi kind of stuff. So it's set in a world where some of the gods kind of live with the people in that kind of particular realm. But it's a really interesting kind of complex world, playing with the powers of the gods and politics and stuff. And it's it was really good. I mean, I love all of her stuff that I've read. So.
I was going to say, it's on my list. I've not read that one, but I have read, in fact, we've both read the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, which is really, really good. And I would recommend that one as well.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, 100,000 Kingdoms is the first in a trilogy, the Inheritance trilogy. So I'm hoping to get the rest of the trilogy at some point.
Change of direction. People want to know, how did we meet and what was our first date?
Exciting. It's a good story that Helen is now going to tell.
So we met, we both worked a summer job together in Cornwall. We worked at Goonhilly Satellite Earth Station on the Lizard in Cornwall. We were tour guides. We used to have to do bus tours of the site. It was a really good summer job, actually. I think it was a really good one. We enjoyed it.
A lot of fun.
And we met there. It was after my second year of uni, and you'd finished, but you did 4 years. Is that right?
I'd finished, yes, and I was between.
You were between undergraduate and masters.
Yes, it was one of the many years that I spent floundering, not knowing what I was doing with my life, and then I did a master's degree. Yeah. And
yeah, we met. I had a boyfriend at the time, but Tom asked me if I wanted to go out for coffee. Yeah. And I didn't want to say no because I really liked him, but I had a boyfriend, so I couldn't say yes. So I told him I don't like coffee, which is true. I don't like coffee. So he then asked me if I wanted to go out for a milkshake, at which point I had to admit that I had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, this shows you, this is, a few weeks later, I got a letter through the post, a physical letter. Now, we had mobile phones in those days. You know, we're not that old. But I got a physical letter through the post from my boyfriend breaking up with me. So I very quickly texted you and asked you if you wanted to go out for a drink, and
which we did.
That's it. That's where the whole thing started.
Yeah, and it's all downhill from there.
Oi.
Because downhill is easy.
Oh, okay. We'll take that explanation. As for first date, do we count that drink as the first date?
I don't think so.
I don't really know what our first date was.
Well, I think it was probably one of the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, we did go to the cinema to see Pirates of the Caribbean, but I can't remember which one it was. It's whichever one. It's whichever one came out in 2006.
There we go.
Because that's when we met and got together.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
Yeah.
I remember watching 1 at uni, and I remember when 3 came out, which was when I was doing my masters.
Right.
I went to see it in Enfield. So.
Okay. So maybe it was 2.
There we go.
That is the story of our lives.
Yeah, we can date our biographies from when Pirates of the Caribbean films were released.
And yeah, so we met in 2006, got married in 2009.
Yep.
We were babies.
Yep.
I was 22 when I got married. You were 25, I guess, something like that. Yeah. And we've been happily together ever since. Right, next question. Another change of direction. Somebody asked, what is my dream for the business and what do I want to achieve in the near future? That's a big question. I have lots of ideas. I've had a really big year for the business this year, having become VAT registered in the middle of the year. That's felt like a really big step up. And there's a lot of pressure that comes to that with that as well, because I kind of have to keep at that level and I've got to keep things going and which is kind of nerve-wracking, but so far so good. But I would like to, one of the things I really would like to do, I would like to get a studio space of some kind and move into that. I have been looking and I am still, I went to see somewhere in September, which is absolutely perfect. It could be exactly what I want. It's over a couple of floors. The upstairs would be perfect as like an actual studio space with loads of room for me to work in, and everything like that. And then the downstairs would be a really good space to kind of have as a, I don't quite know what to call it, like a social area maybe, where I could have tables and stuff and like almost like a shop front, but I don't want to be open as a shop for people to just come and go. I want to be able to kind of shut it up and then open up as a studio on specific days. But it would be a perfect space to have tables and like a social area, and I'd be able to run like knit nights and social events, and I could maybe run like little retreats and things like that. So yeah, but I'm having some issues with the landlord, who has decided all of a sudden that he's actually going to do the whole place up, despite the fact that when I approached about it, it said it was available immediately back in September. So they're now in the process of doing the whole thing up. I don't have a timeline for that. I still get the odd email asking me questions about, you know, do I need this bit, do I need that bit, kind of thing. So I'm hoping that means they're still keeping me in mind for it, but yeah, I don't quite know what's happening yet. And I've not seen anything similar that would work in the same way.
No, not that you can afford.
Not that I can afford anyway, no. So I'm kind of holding out hope that this will still work out. I guess I'll find out in the new year. Hopefully I'll be able to get a bit more of an idea of timelines and things like that then. But that's kind of the big dream. I'd like a studio space that I could also open up to run knit nights and social events, and I could have pop-ups, and I could get like other dyers to come and do like little events and things like that. A real kind of community space, and yeah, that's kind of the dream. But it's just a case of finding the right place, really. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is the tricky question. This is the one I haven't even thought about, and I really, really, really don't know the answer for.
Yeah.
If we had a dream dinner party and we could invite 3 people each, living or dead, famous or not, who would we invite to our dream dinner party?
It's the worst question.
Sorry, Fran.
It's too difficult.
It's a really hard question. I really don't know.
Made more complicated by the fact that I get socially awkward, so I wouldn't really want anybody I don't know coming to a dinner party. But then that kind of defeats the object of...
Yeah, a dinner party. Yeah. Can we say we don't want to invite anyone, we just want it to be us?
Yeah, I'd probably pick some random philosophers. Maybe people that would have an argument.
See, I think the problem with
then we could bet on the outcome.
I think the problem with wanting like famous people is that it's never like often if you meet somebody famous, they never kind of live up to your expectation. And I think I would be terrified of that. Like if I had somebody famous come, I'd be terrified that they wouldn't live up to the expectation of who they are in my head. I don't really know. Do you know what? I'm just going to say I would like a dinner party with all of my lovely knitting friends that I don't get to see a lot.
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them. No, I'm having more than 3. But yeah, all of my lovely knitting friends that I've met over the years that don't live close, and I'd just hire out a massive hall and put on a massive banquet, and that would be my dinner party.
Excellent.
And you're going to have some random dead philosophers.
I'd get Foucault and Derrida and make them fight and then bet on it.
Okay, a slightly easier question now, I think. What is your favourite quality street?
So my recollection is that they used to do peanut brittle ones, and I loved those. Nobody else did, but I loved them, but they don't seem to do them anymore.
Did you do peanut brittle quality street?
One of them, I think it was one of them, the collection of sweets used to have a peanut brittle in it, like covered in chocolate. And it was lovely. But if not that, because I'm not sure that exists anymore, or it's something, again, I've made up, it would be toffee penny.
A toffee penny.
Love a toffee penny.
I like all the caramel ones and the toffee ones. So like the toffee sticks, the toffee pennies, the caramel barrel, and also the purple one, obviously, with the caramel with the nut in them. They're my favourites, definitely.
Toffee stick is like if there's no toffee pennies, I'll get a toffee stick.
So really, you don't want the chocolate, you just want the toffee?
Yeah, and the caramel and chocolate sometimes is it's not as good as a toffee penny, is it?
I like the caramels and chocolate.
It's
all right, all the more for me then.
Anything but the fruit creams.
Oh, I like the fruit creams as well. See, you can have the coconut ones and I'll have the fruit creams.
I love a coconut one.
Would we ever move back to Cornwall?
Probably, maybe.
So no, the difficulty with that question is that it all depends on Tom and his work, really. Which, interestingly, is a question later on, in fact.
So no spoilers, but there's actually one place in Cornwall I could work. Well,
I was thinking maybe we move that question forward and you answer what you do for work. And then it makes more sense as to why Cornwall won't really work for us.
Fair enough. So I work at university. I work in the law department. And I teach and research law and legal theory. So wherever we can live is kind of very much tied to whatever university is willing to employ me and the random nonsense that I do. And there's only one university with a law school that has a campus in Cornwall.
That's Exeter, isn't it?
Exeter has a campus at Falmouth, Penryn. So out of Cornwall, there's like Exeter and Plymouth and Bristol and a few places around there. But Cornwall proper would only be...
it would be Falmouth at Tremoe, which is where you did your PhD.
Where I did my PhD, but it's quite a small department.
But it is, it's a very small department. So the likelihood of you finding a job down there...
Yes.
And also what he hasn't mentioned is that he's also a professor. Well, you're now Professor of Law, or it's not,
I'm a Professor of Jurisprudence.
A Professor of I can't say that.
Jurisprudence.
Yes.
That means thinking about law.
So again, it would also be those higher level jobs, like professor jobs, don't come up as often. So the likelihood of finding a professor job in Cornwall is really, really low.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, we would love to move back to Cornwall because all our family is down there. If you're relatively new, actually, to the channel and you don't know this, we both grew up in Cornwall. and both of our families live in Cornwall. So my poor parents have left today in order to arrive tomorrow because they are travelling all the way up from Cornwall.
Yeah.
So it's definitely somewhere that we would consider moving back to. But for now, Scotland...
Yeah, and with the kids at school and stuff, we wouldn't want to move while they're going through school and things so much. So.
That's something that's quite big for me. I moved around quite a lot when I was little. We lived in Switzerland for a while when I was really tiny, and then we came back to kind of Bedfordshire, which is just north of London. And then we moved to Cornwall, and I never made it the whole way through a school. I went to about 5 or 6 different schools. And although I've turned out all right, I know it was hard at times. I know it was hard at times. And I'd really like to not put my kids through that if I can help it. So yeah, there is that kind of element of it as well. But we really like Scotland.
Yeah,
This is the most
Dundee
settled.
Is very nice.
This is the most settled I think I've ever felt in one place.
Yeah.
And there's lots of similarities to Cornwall. Like, we're right by the beach still.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah, we've got lots of countryside around us. So yeah, definitely Scotland for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Right, next question. Does anyone play an instrument?
I used to play guitars and stuff and do band things, but the guitars have been in the attic for a number of years now.
Probably 10, which is how old Arthur is.
Ah, what a coincidence. So I probably could still play them, but it's not something I've felt the urge to do for quite a while.
Yeah.
I have other interests, other hobbies. I still love music, but not the playing side of it. So.
I grew up in a very, very musical family. My mum played instruments and I followed growing up. So I play clarinet, saxophone, I can play a little bit of flute. But like Tom, I probably haven't really picked it up in nearly 10 years. In fact, once when we moved out of Cornwall, I used to play with the Royal Navy volunteer band at Culdrose in Helston. We used to do all the marching and wear the uniform and everything like that. And I used to love that. It was really, really good. And then we moved away from Cornwall and I've never quite found a replacement band, especially for woodwind. Like, there's lots of bands in Dundee, but most of them are brass bands or strings or stuff like that. So it's much harder, I think, to find something woodwind based.
Yeah. You did a little bit in London, didn't you? You found a couple of
I tried to play with Northwood, which again was another Royal Navy volunteer band, but it was a good 45-minute drive up the M25, and once the kids came along, that just didn't happen. So one day I still have my instruments, and one day I will venture and I will get them out. But that's what my mum did, interestingly. My mum's clarinet was in the attic for years and years, and it wasn't until I think it was when I started secondary school, actually, possibly middle school, secondary school, something like that. And I started looking into playing instruments, that she suddenly got it out of the attic and was like, oh, well, we've got a clarinet. So that's what I started playing. And then my mum picked it up again then, and carried on playing. And she still plays again now. So I kind of feel like maybe that's the stage I'm at.
Yeah. But the boys have both show a lot of interest in music.
Yeah.
Arthur especially.
Yeah. At primary school, they do some music lessons, but it's mostly strings, I think, here, which he's not really shown any interest in. So I'm hoping once he starts secondary school, he's primary 6 now, he's got primary 7, so he's got one more full year of school plus the rest of this year, and then he starts secondary school. Yeah. I'm hoping there'll be more options for instruments and stuff when... Yeah,
like keyboards and pianos he's shown a bit of an interest in, and that's a good foundation.
Yeah, so we will see. But yes, they're historically, there has been some instrument playing here. What's the next question?
How often do we play Dungeons and Dragons?
We play quite a lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
Indeed.
So we currently have 3 campaigns that we play in. No, you have 2. I have 3.
Yes.
So we play a game with my brother,
Yes.
which we play pretty much every Saturday evening. We play online. In fact, all of them we play online. We play a game with my brother that we play pretty much every Saturday evening. Then we have a campaign called Zaspia, which Tom is DMing, with a group of crafty friends and things like that, which we aim to play once a fortnight.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's longer in between, but it's generally once a fortnight. And then I have a game we're playing through the Witchlight campaign, which I'm DMing with a similar group to the Zaspia campaign, but just the girls, and an extra. But it's a very similar group with a couple of different people here or there. And again, that's supposed to be once a fortnight on a Sunday, but again, sometimes that goes a little bit longer in between and things like that. So weekly, we only have the one game that we play every week, but it varies.
And we have been doing another, not Dungeons and Dragons, but a different tabletop role-playing game with some local people, some friends of mine.
Vampire, which you will have seen some of earlier in the month, because I did get a couple of little clips.
Yeah.
Which has been really fun.
Something a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, but that we don't really have a set schedule for that. I think we try to play once or twice a month, don't we?
Yeah,
but
ad hoc.
But that one's in person, which is quite nice. So yeah, a fair amount of D&D actually.
Yeah.
The next question is for you. I'm looking forward to this one. Why do you spell your name with a H? The person who asked wondered if it was a Cornish thing, if there was some kind of reason behind it, some kind of deep reason behind it, or some kind of like Celtic thing or something like that.
Oh, it's a great question, and one that I do sometimes get asked. So there are a number of reasons, primarily linked with being a teenager and being a bit odd.
And wanting to be different.
And wanting to be different, yeah. So, it always struck me that Tom, T-O-M, did not make any sense as an abbreviation for Thomas, given that Thomas has an H in it. So Tom with an H seemed the more logical abbreviation.
Does Thomas have an H in it everywhere? In America, do they spell Thomas with a H too? Because often in America they miss out.
Some people don't spell it with an H, but the way my name was spelt was with an H, and that's a very common way of spelling Thomas.
So Thomas.
Yes, Thomas the Tank Engine,
yes.
For example. So I thought that was a more logical way of abbreviating the name Thomas to Tom with an H. There was also, of course, Tom York from Radiohead, and I was a very big Radiohead fan growing up. And it also felt like TOM was didn't have as much kind of gravitas to it as THOM, and as a teenager wanting to kind of develop more of an identity and to be a bit rebellious and to kind of find meaning in life, I felt that keeping the H had a number of reasons behind why it was good, and it feels more sophisticated to me. It's probably not. It's probably just a bit weird.
So basically,
that's the kind of reasons why it felt like it had more meaning to it for me, for my identity. There was Tom York from Radiohead, and he was cool, and then it was a more logical abbreviation of Thomas. So I'm not aware of any Celtic links with the name, but you do see people occasionally with spelling their abbreviated Tom with an H.
So basically, you wanted to be different. So you changed it as a teenager?
Yeah, and I was known as Tom with an H by various people at school.
Quite often when I first met you, everybody called you Thom.
People called me Thom, yeah.
Which was quite amusing.
Loved that.
Right, next question. Now he's rambled his way through that. You can just imagine what we're like as a pair, can't you, when we both just continually ramble. Our kids are going to be...
Well, it's something I don't get to talk about very often.
No, that's true.
So it's nice to let it out.
Yeah. It's all right. Most people watching enjoy a ramble. So it's fine.
They're kind of self-selecting.
Right, so next question. Do we have a favourite takeaway?
Well, we do like a takeaway.
We do like a takeaway.
But because you have a firm favourite, don't you?
I do have a firm favourite. I love a Chinese. If I got the choice every time, it would be Chinese, definitely. Although we are struggling with our Chinese takeaway at the moment because when we first moved to Scotland, we found it very hard actually to find a Chinese takeaway similar to what we were used to. Because a lot of them do like meals and like you get your main and then the rice comes with it anyway, and that's just too much food. If you want, like, I like a Chinese takeaway where you can get a few different mains and then one rice kind of thing. But so it took us a while to find a takeaway that would do that to start with.
And that was nice.
Yes. And then we finally found somewhere and it did everything we wanted. Like, I really like the Kung Pao chicken, but it has to be the Kung Pao chicken that's battered.
Yeah.
And we really like satay as well, but like we like I don't even know how to describe it, but like we had like the type we liked and it was really good and we really enjoyed it. And now they've stopped delivering to us.
Yeah, we were right on the edge of their delivery, I think.
Yeah, so they've stopped delivering to us. And the new one, which we tried the other day, did everything really different. It wasn't like we had the same things we normally do, and they were really different, and I wasn't convinced.
Yeah. Well, then we had one that wasn't very nice at all. And then the last one we tried was quite nice, but maybe we need to order different things to get the nice stuff.
But then I can't get my Kung Pao.
Then you can't get Kung Pao,
So yeah, we're struggling with takeaway at the moment. Yeah. We need to explore.
We found there's a number of Indians that are very nice.
And is Indian your favourite? That's what I was about to say. What about you? I've talked now. What's your favourite takeaway?
I don't think I have a favourite. I love many different takeaways. Indian, Chinese, pizza and stuff. Yeah. I like, probably evens between Chinese and Indian.
We don't get a lot of choice here. You'd think, being in a city, that we would get quite a lot of choice of like what we can get takeaway wise, but we can't get, where we are anyway, we can't get like Deliveroo or what's the other one? Uber Eats.
Yeah, I think if we were closer into the centre of town,
we would.
Okay.
So we get Just Eat, and that does have the choices on it, but it's mostly kind of your very obvious kind of Chinese, Indian, kebabs kind of things like that. We can't get, we can't get like the restaurant-based stuff. Like I've been and stayed with friends who've been able to do like Uber Eats or Deliveroo, and we've been able to get like Wagamamas or Five Guys or like all kinds of stuff like that, which unfortunately we can't do here. So we are a little bit more restricted with what we get in the terms of takeaway. But also we like where we live, so a takeaway is not going to make us move. Why did we move to Scotland? Did I mention that earlier?
No.
Just talked
so
about
this again is also linked with my job.
It's his fault.
I was working at an institution in London. I won't say which one it is, but if you Google me, you'll be able to find it. Because everything is public.
Because you're about to badmouth it.
And it became a very unpleasant place to work. So I needed out basally, and so I just started applying for jobs all around the country. And out
of the country, actually. You applied to one in Australia.
Yeah, applied for a couple. And then took the first one that gave me a job, which was Dundee.
And this is where we ended up.
And I didn't really know anything about Dundee as a department, as a university. I'd been up here to do a lecture, but not in the law department, in one of the humanities departments. And so didn't know the city, didn't know the area. And just said they gave me a job, so I took it, and it was good. Yeah. There was a pay increase, and it got us out of London, and got me out of where I was working. And no, it's been really good.
Yeah, it was really good timing as well in terms of us as a family, I think, because we moved up the year that Arthur started school. So we moved up in the July. And then, bless him, because of the way that the Scottish school holidays work versus the English school holidays, he'd finished nursery, like preschool, and then we moved to Scotland, and then 2 weeks later he started school. So it was a bit of a big change, but I felt like it was good timing because he was starting a new school at the beginning with everyone else, completely fresh. Yep. Jasper was about 18 months old, I think, something like that. And it just worked, didn't it? I think the timing of it all worked really well. So
it's been nice working at Dundee. It has its problems because it's a university, and
I think all of them do, don't they? Across the sector,
politics of higher education, and money. But the department is very nice, very good colleagues. So it's been good. And they made me a professor for some unknown reason. So I'm not going to complain.
talking of politics, somebody asked in the Discord thread, actually, I put a request for I put a request for questions up in the Discord thread. And somebody asked, do we support trans and LGBT... Oh, I've got that wrong. No, I haven't.
LGBT.
Words. LGBTQ plus rights. And I answered it directly in the Discord thread then and there because I thought it was such an important thing to actually answer immediately, and I wanted them to get their response. So if you're in the Discord thread, you will have seen my response to that straight away. But I did say that we would answer it on the vlogs as well. And the answer is absolutely. Yes, we are massive supporters of trans rights and LGBT rights and everything like that. Definitely. We are very vocal about it with our kids as well, particularly Arthur. Jasper is old enough to understand that it's important to treat everyone the same, and that there's different types of families and different types of relationships and things like that. But he's still a little bit young to kind of understand the complexities of it all. Whereas Arthur is a massive trans ally.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think some of that comes from us talking to him about Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, because he really wanted to read the Harry Potter books. And a lot of J.K. Rowling's stances on trans rights obviously have been quite controversial. I'm not going to go into it, but have a look on Twitter if you're not sure. And we really wanted to have a sit down and have a conversation with him about it before we let him read Harry Potter. So a lot of it's come from that. A lot of it, I think, also has come from the fact that he has long hair, and he is constantly misgendered. Constantly misgendered. So he's got a real kind of sensitivity, I think, to it, and an understanding to kind of that kind of gender identity kind of issues and things like that. And
I think they have covered some stuff. They've done some stuff at school as well.
Yeah, so we live in, obviously, as you know, we live in Scotland. And Scotland is actually it's one of the more liberal countries in the UK, I would say.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were going to agree with me there. We won't get into deep politics, but generally it's one of the more liberal countries, and it's got the best in terms of support for trans rights and LGBT. Why can't I say that today? It's even written in front of me. LGBT plus rights. Yeah. And actually Scotland is one of the first countries in the world, I believe, to introduce LGBT history into the school curriculum. So he's actually been doing a little bit about it at school as well within the last couple of years. They did a little bit last year, and they've been doing a little bit this year as well. So yeah, I think that's really good. And it's nice to know that things are hopefully progressing, just slowly and not perfectly, but you know. So yes. Right, next question. We're actually going to merge the next questions. So first off was, are there any Christmas traditions that we had as kids that we've continued with the boys? But another question was, what are our family Christmas Eve traditions? So I thought we'd kind of merge these a little bit and just talk generally about kind of Christmas traditions.
Sounds good.
What Christmas traditions do we have?
Well, we've developed some traditions around Advent, like doing the chocolate advent calendars with the boys and doing Vlogmas.
Yes, Vlogmas has obviously become a big kind of Christmas tradition.
And the decorations that we put up and stuff.
Yeah, we don't often host, so generally a lot of our kind of Christmas Eve stuff and like actual Christmas Day traditions tend to be based on where we've gone for Christmas, whether we're at your parents' or my parents'.
Yeah.
But there's little things, I think, like Christmas stockings. The boys always have Christmas stockings, but rather than like, we don't have a mantelpiece. My parents have a mantelpiece.
My parents have a mantelpiece.
And your parents have a mantelpiece, but we don't have a mantelpiece. So rather than hanging them on a mantelpiece or anything like that, they have them at the end of their beds. So the Christmas stocking goes on the end of their bed. They go off to sleep. Santa Claus arrives during the night and fills the Christmas stocking. And then in the morning, they wake up with the Christmas stocking at the foot of their bed. And that's always what I did as kids.
Yeah, that's always what I did as well. Even though we had mantelpieces,
okay.
we always hung at the end of our bed.
And that was always really exciting to wake up in the morning and feel that Santa had been.
Yeah. I remember one Christmas morning, I woke up in the morning and felt for my stocking with my feet and could not find it. And there was nothing down the end of my bed at all. And I panicked and I was like, oh no, I've been put on the naughty list and Santa hasn't come, and I was really upset. And then I discovered that it had just been
fallen
knocked
on the
off
floor.
and it had rolled off onto the floor.
And me and my brother nearly always used to share a room on Christmas Eve. It started off when we were little because we used to have family guests, and one of them always used to stay in my brother's room or my room. But then as we grew up, that continued because it was just the exciting thing to do on Christmas Eve. I can always remember we always used to wake up on Christmas morning and we would allow ourselves to sneak one thing from our stocking before we took our stockings into mum and dad to open them properly. So there we go.
That sounds like a breach of regulations to me.
I was going to suggest actually, because normally the boys share a bedroom on Christmas Eve when we're away as well. So I was going to suggest to them actually whether they fancied a sleepover on Christmas Eve.
Oh,
because that's always been a nice little tradition. I used to love that.
Yeah, you good. Live parenting decision on air.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
But yeah. We obviously have the very traditional Christmas Eve traditions of we always put a mince pie out for Santa and
we didn't really do that. I don't remember doing that as a
didn't
kid.
you? Oh, we did that as a kid, definitely.
Maybe because I'm the youngest of four, so maybe by the time it got to me, like some of those traditions had petered out a little bit.
I'm the oldest of two, so
You got full brunt of
I got all of
everything.
it. Yeah, I got all the Christmas traditions. But yeah.
Yeah. Ham and red cabbage on Christmas Eve, but only when we're hosting.
Yes, my parents do that on Boxing Day.
That's what my parents do on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. I always find it really interesting, like the merging of traditions between like two families, because obviously there's stuff that you used to do with your parents and there's stuff that I used to do growing up, and it's kind of the way that they've merged to kind of create our own kind of Christmas, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like we've not really answered that one very adequately.
Yeah. Oh no, I think we have.
Okay, we'll move on.
We don't. Yeah.
There are a couple of yarny questions here. First of all, do I have a favourite colourway that I dye? I don't think I do. I have favourite colours that I dye. Like I absolutely love dyeing blues and greens. They're colours that I feel really confident dyeing. I'm really comfortable dyeing. I really enjoy creating colourways using those colours. And I have to restrict myself sometimes because like I'll come to create a new colour and I'll be like, oh yeah, blue. No, I need to do a different colour. Can't all be blue and green. But I don't think I have a favourite colourway. They're all my babies.
Yeah. You love them all differently.
I love them all differently, yes. Yeah, definitely. And interestingly, actually, some of the colourways that I dye and I look at and I go, oh, I'm not really sure if I'm keen on this, often end up being the more popular colourways and the ones that all of you like more than me. So I have learned over the years to like not always judge a colourway by my preferences, because actually quite often everyone likes colourways differently.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd never do any kind of autumnal tones.
I'd never do autumnal tones because I'm not the biggest fan of like browns and oranges and things like that. But I know a lot of people do love those kind of colours, so yeah. More yarny questions. What have we got? These two here. So first of all, somebody asked, how much yarn do I order in at one time? And how does my yarn come? So I tend to order in, I don't tend to keep a lot of undyed yarn stock in at any one time because I don't have a lot of storage space. Obviously because I still work at home, I'm lucky enough to have an office after we converted the garage, but even then like that has to contain everything. So I don't have a lot of space. So I probably keep about maybe 15 to 20 kilograms of undyed yarn in, but that's across, that's across mini skeins, which I generally have in about 4 different bases, and across 100-gram skeins, which I've generally got in about 5 different bases. So I maybe have like a kilogram or 2 of each base in at any one time. But where I order from, generally does next day delivery. So if I place a yarn order on a Monday morning, it'll arrive on a Tuesday afternoon. So even if I run out of something, I can get it replaced really, really quickly. So that's quite good. And how does my yarn come? Well, you will have seen, like, the way, if you've seen me prepping yarn in the beginning of any of the vlogs or anything like that, that is how it comes. It comes in 100-gram hanks, or I can get it in 50-gram hanks, or I can get it in like the 20 grams or 10-gram minis, and it comes like that. So nowadays, now that they've expanded their range of mini bases, I very rarely have to make my own yarn, if that makes sense. So generally I just get 100 grams. If I need to dye 100 grams, that's what I dye. I used to sometimes have to make minis, like in the BFL base and in the merino bamboo base. If I offered sock sets, I'd have to split the 100 grams to make minis. But they've actually started stocking those as minis now, which makes my life a lot easier. So yeah, I think that answered the question. Basically, that's how my yarn comes.
And it comes in a big old box.
It does. You know, when we did the gardening episode and you saw us planting the bulbs and I was moaning about the cardboard in the background, that's my boxes from the supplier. They come in these massive, massive boxes, which take up a lot of room. Although we are very lucky because our recycling people will actually take them.
Yeah. And they're quite useful when our cardboard overflows because we can flat pack those stuff and fill the box.
When the recycling overflows.
And the boys greatly enjoy them because they always have a good supply of fresh boxes for them to play in and destroy.
Yes. The cats quite enjoy them as well.
Yeah. Sometimes we come down in the morning to find that one of the boxes has been filled with cushions and Arthur's sat in it playing computer games.
Yeah. So they enjoy that.
Yeah.
Right, we're getting to the end. What else have we got? I'm just trying to work out. I think we've got 3 more questions. 3 more questions. Yeah. It's got a bit mixed up in the order, so I'm trying to work out which ones. Yeah, where I've merged things. Which one do we answer last? That's the question.
We should probably do this one last.
That one last? Okay, fine.
I don't know what it is.
No, I don't know the answer to that one either. If we were board games, which board game would we be and why? Thank you, Sharon.
Do you have an answer prepared?
I don't have an answer prepared for this one at all.
Okay, so I do have an answer. So I would say I would like to think that I am like Dinosaur Island or Mysterium or something interesting like that. But in reality, I'm probably Snap.
I was going to say Snap, just chaos. I don't think you're Snap. I think you're quite organised and meticulous.
Really?
I don't know.
Yeah, like Solitaire or something.
Really dull and boring.
Yeah.
I want to be something cosy. What's a cosy board game? I want to be something that is just sitting on the sofa, relaxed and knitting. What's a cosy board game?
I don't
know.
Mysterium's quite cosy.
Mysterium's quite cosy. Yeah. And I do like a bit of horror and a bit of ghost story.
Yeah. Sagrada's quite cosy.
Sagrada is very cosy and it's very pretty.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Mysterium. Little bit spooky. I'm not spooky at all, so I don't know quite why. I don't know.
But you do like spooky.
But I do like spooky.
You've got an inner spookiness.
But it's also artistic and it's cosy and it's
You should do a Mysterium yarn club.
I would, but I do books.
The artwork is
and
spectacular.
It's not book themed. It's not on brand.
It's not on brand. That's true. Oh well.
Right. Next question. What did I do before I dyed yarn?
Ooh.
What did I do before I dyed yarn? It's been a while.
In the before time.
Yeah. So my career before dyeing yarn was quite interesting because we met quite young. I did at university. I studied psychology. I've got an undergraduate in psychology, and then we met and we got married. And Tom did his PhD, but he didn't get any maintenance funding for his PhD, so his fees were paid, but he didn't have any funding. So when we first lived together, I basically just had to find a job so that we could pay rent and we could survive. So I ended up working for a charity called Leonard Cheshire Disability. And I started out as a support worker, working with a mix of adults, actually. Everything, when I first started working there, it was everything from people that had strokes, people that had MS, people that had motor neuron disease, people who had learning disabilities and other physical disabilities. It was a residential home, so the disabilities and physical impairments were quite significant. And I was there for 7 years, something like that, I think. And I kind of worked my way up to being one of the senior support workers and running one of the units, specifically the unit that specialised more in adults with learning disabilities, which I really, really enjoyed. And then we moved to London because you got your first job. Mm-hmm. And I kind of continued then working with adults with learning disabilities. I got a job up there for a place that was more like a house in the community. So we had 6 adults that lived in the house, and we supported them with everything. And again, I was there as a senior support worker, so I was kind of like the second in command, I guess, of the house. And it was all right. It wasn't the best job. Then I decided to do my master's degree, and I did a master's degree in psychology. It was clinical applications of psychology. Then I had the kids. I had Arthur whilst I was in the middle of my master's degree. I did my master's degree over 2 years. I did it part-time because I was working full-time at the same time, and then we had a baby, so it was quite convenient that I did it part-time. And then it was a bit funny. Then I ended up working for an agency because childcare in London is impossible to pay on what we were earning at that time completely. So I ended up having to work mostly weekends. I did some nights as well for an agency where I mostly ended up in kind of care homes for older people, dementia care homes, that kind of thing, which I will say I did not enjoy anywhere near as much. Until eventually I got a job with another charity which worked with children. It was a respite unit for children with learning disabilities and physical disabilities, and that was amazing. But I wasn't there very long. I did a little bit with them on the agency, and then I got a job with them kind of directly, but just like bank staff, it's called, so kind of like occasional hours. So you get to pick and choose your hours. You don't have a contract as such. So again, I could do weekends and things like that. But then we moved to Scotland.
Yep.
And I was very lucky that when we moved to Scotland, the cost of living for us dropped dramatically.
Yeah.
And Tom got a bit of a pay rise as well. So it meant that I was able to kind of really focus on Giddy yarns and grow that more until now. That's my full-time job. So yeah, that's what I did beforehand. It was very rewarding, and I really enjoyed some aspects of it. I loved working with adults and children with learning disabilities and things like that. And if I was ever to go back to anything, I think that's the side of things that I would want to do, but more in the kind of respite side of things, or working at one of the special schools or something like that, I think. But not on the cards at the moment. Right. Final question. Why have you got your phone open?
Oh, you ruined it. Yeah,
Oh.
in preparation for joke of the day.
In preparation for joke of the day?
Because I've got a joke of the day on my phone.
Is the joke of the day also a joke of the day from the editor of the Beano?
Unofficially, and not a Beano joke.
He gave us 2 yesterday, so Tom's going to use that one as well. But we have the final... Do we want to do joke of the day, or do we want to do the final question? Final question first.
And then finish on joke of the day.
Okay, I'd forgotten about joke of the day actually, so I'm glad you'd remembered.
Yeah.
Final question is, what is our favourite memory from 2023? The look on Tom's face says it all.
I don't know, picking favourites of anything I always find very difficult and very stressful.
I'm trying to remember what we've done this year.
I'm always worried of picking the wrong thing and not being true to myself.
France was a real highlight.
Oh, France was
we
nice.
went to France in July. We went and stayed with my aunt and uncle who live in France. They live in kind of the southwest France.
Yeah.
About near Lannemezan. if you know that at all.
About an hour from Toulouse.
About an hour from Toulouse. They live right in the middle of the French countryside.
Yes.
They've got an old French farmhouse. And it is just beautiful out there. And we haven't been out since Jasper was 6 months old.
Yeah.
So we hadn't been out in six years at that point.
Yeah.
And we managed to get out this summer and stay with them for a week. And that was lovely. Really, really lovely. I think that's probably my highlight of the year.
Yeah. I'll go with that. I went to New York. That was amazing. I had a really good time in New York for a conference. We had a nice week at a hotel in Cornwall.
Oh, we had 2 days at a hotel in Cornwall, didn't we? Yeah, we went down to Cornwall. It felt like a week. It was amazing. We went down to Cornwall for a week because we were going down for our niece's wedding.
Yeah.
And while we were there, we dumped the kids with my parents for a couple of nights, and we went to a hotel on our own, which I think is the first time we've done that since the kids were born.
Yeah.
So that was a real that was really nice. That was nice. Lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're some of our favourite memories from 2023.
Yeah.
Right, we should probably wrap up this video because I think we're probably at nearly an hour now.
Yep.
So I guess it's time for Joke of the Day. Cats.
Oh, just us doing Joke of the Day just woke the cats up, and now they're a bit on edge.
They both like sat bolt upright and their ears went like that as we did it. Sorry, carry on.
Okay, so here is today's joke. What happened to the maths teacher's plant?
I don't know. What happened to the maths teacher's plant?
It grew square roots.